And to talk to us a little bit more about what the UK is showcasing and in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals of the world and of the United Kingdom, we've got the Right Honourable Lord Mayor of London, William Russell, joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Now, let's start off by your first thoughts of the UK Pavilion and the Expo.
The Expo itself is just incredible. I've been to a number of the sites, and I just went to DP Global, and that was, all about flow and logistics, and I've learned so much, and you can see the education bit coming out in Expo.
I've got to touch upon this as well, because when the pandemic happened, the whole world was in shock, and now that we've seen live events coming back together, and the UAE being the first to have an event of this scale, your thoughts on that?
Well, if our hotel where we're staying is only go by the UAE, Dubai is full. I've never seen so many people. I think it's wonderful that the UAE are leading the way, and in fact, my mayoralty is into its second year. I stepped down at the end of in the middle of November, and I came here early on in my time as Lord Mayor in February 2020 or January 2020, and spoke at the Sustainable Forum, and I've just seen the progress the UAE's made, not just in sustainability, but here at Expo and what's going on, and I think it's a very exciting place, and I think there is true leadership being shown here in the UAE.
And in terms of the political and even on the diplomatic level, the importance of the UAE for the UK, and if you can touch upon that, and why has it been so significant, and where do we see this going?
Well, so 2 weeks ago we had Crown Prince over, and it was a very exciting time for us as well, and the UAE joint partnership with the UK was signed, and I genuinely believe that the relationship has never been at a better level, and it's a two-way partnership. I think there's lots of opportunity for us to work together, and a lot of it is around sustainable investing, and it's out there now that UAE want COP28, and I think that would be a brilliant thing, because just to reiterate, that sort of leadership that's being shown, and I've just been on a panel with your new minister, and she was brilliant. You can just sense there's a long-term thinking, true leadership here in the UAE about sustainability and where you want to get to. And by the way, you're doing it in life sciences as well.
We've also got the COP26 coming up, and talk to us about the expectations from it. And it's become ever so important now that we feel the effects of global warming. It was all talks earlier. Now we see it all happening. So what are we expecting and hoping from the COP26?
Paris was a remarkable moment, and we committed to that 1.5 degrees, and now this is known as the Net Zero COP, and we're getting these net zero commitments from around the world, and that's hugely positive. Now we need to, after this, move forward as fast as possible to looking at 2030. So look, we've committed in the UK to net zero emissions for 2050. However, I just think let's look at 2030, let's see what we can do, let's move as fast as possible. And I'm one of those people who, out of tragedy, there's sometimes some good things, and COVID-19 has brought forward the urgency around COP26 and climate change, and that's a positive. And I think the world will react accordingly. From the City of London's perspective, we've created the Green Horizon Summit, which we created in November 2020, and we're taking that GHS brand to COP. And the first week at COP is all around finance, and finance is absolutely critical in achieving the things we need to achieve.
We can see there's an increased funding from the private sector now towards green initiatives. We see that there is increased global awareness. But what's been the biggest challenge to get other countries on board and for us to expedite the process?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is probably around emerging and developing countries, because quite rightly they're saying, well, we aren't at the economic stage you are, in the industrial stage you are, and why should we suffer because of this? Although a lot of those countries are the ones that are going to suffer the most. So it's for the big developed countries to act as global citizens in order to help those developing countries.
We've seen the big divide of the north and south, particularly during the COVID-19 it's gotten worse. Now the global recovery that we see, are you optimistic about that as well in terms of us to reach pre-pandemic levels at some point?
Well, at some point. At some point we will. We're beginning COVID, and I've had many good meetings here in the UAE, but one of the meetings was with the chairman of DP Global, and we talked about the logistics, supply chain issues, and COVID has brought that about, and that means the world is now going through this change to adapt to that. And a lot of those things I think would have come forward, but would have happened, but COVID's brought them forward. And so it will take time to make those changes. And some of those changes, for example, are how reliant we were on China and what they're supplying us. And of course, China's not open to the world. We can't go there. They can't come to us. But that affects supply issues.
Key component there is connectivity.
Yes.
Now that we've got the vaccines recognised, how big of a step that is, and can we sustain this? And is a step in the right direction to get things moving forward?
No, I think so. I mean, as I said, I've seen how busy it is here. If you come back to London, London is busy as well. As the vaccines have been rolled out and now people have the boosters, people are feeling more comfortable. The hospitalisation rates are down, and we've still, unfortunately, got too many deaths. But there is progress being made. So you're right. But also, what I think is that person-to-person meetings are critical. It's not the same as Zoom. I'm a big advocate of those personal relationships, and that's something which we take very seriously here with the UK and the City of London, with the UAE, and establishing the personal relationships we've established.
Well, thank you for joining us, Right Honourable Lord Mayor, and it was a pleasure speaking to you, and we look forward to welcoming you back into the UAE again.
Thank you very much.
Well, stay tuned to KhalijTimes.com for more in-depth interviews from the greatest show on earth as we continue to bring you all the updates from the Expo 2020 Dubai. With cameraman Shahab, this is Abdul Karim Hanif for Khalij Times.